Horror games are one of the most popular genres of games, and horror can be found in many places, whether it be your sleeping room, a hospital, a school, or a forest. I decided to make a horror game that takes place in an abandoned village. Although the idea itself is not so original, since there are many games that you can find about abandoned villages, this game, however, is different. The idea of this game is that you are a historian who found an old map of a hidden village. Intrigued by the idea, you decided to go explore it. However, you don't know that this village was once terrorized by an old witch who caused destruction and havoc to the villagers who lived in it, which made them seal her and lock her up in the village. The villagers then left the witch inside, constantly giving warnings not to approach that village again. But you, the enthusiastic historian, decided to ignore all the signs and break every line of defense that the villagers placed. And you end up releasing the monster that will ultimately try to kill you. Now that I have set up the story of the game, I drew a map of how the village will look like. The dimensions should be at least 195 times 155 meters, which is equivalent to 640 times 508 feet. With this, I should get to work, and for that I need to gather some references. I started modeling the first set of houses. After some time, I managed to finish the first 5 models. I kept the models very simple and low poly so that it doesn't affect the performance of the game. What I needed to do next is to export these models to Substance Painter to make the materials. After that, all that's left is to take these models to Unreal Engine 5. I started by making a new project, and since the game is about an abandoned village, I decided to call it Abandoned Village, which is a very creative name. And before I import these models to Unreal Engine, I had to solve one small issue, which is the displacement. The displacement is a texture that you can use to add details to your mesh, and apparently it was removed from Unreal Engine 5. Luckily though, it was reintroduced again, and in order to activate it, I had to go to the project file location and add these 2 lines. With that, the displacement map should work. What I'm going to do is to open a new level and create a landscape and then create a material for that landscape. I will then import my models in it. After exporting the models to Unreal Engine, I will have to assign the materials to them one by one, which is a process that takes time. I will have to go to every mesh that I created and grab the textures to make the materials. Then add the displacement map for a touch of realism. The goal is to make the houses look as realistic as possible. This won't be possible unless I add the displacement map, which makes it very useful. And after some time, I managed to finish all 5 of the houses. I noticed another problem I need to fix, which is the material of the landscape itself. This can be easily solved just by making some quick adjustments. I put each house in its respectful place according to the map I drew. This is just the beginning and I will have to make more houses in order to complete the village. So far, this is all what I'm going to do. This task will take considerable amount of the time I will need to develop this game. I knew that there is going to be a lot of modeling since I will have to make an entire village by myself. Modeling and making the materials took me a few days to complete. I had to find the right textures for the models and I needed to be creative. I didn't want from all the houses to look the same. In this game there will be houses that you can enter and the other houses are just for display. Once I finished the houses, I exported them to Unreal Engine. I had to assign the materials to them like I did before. This isn't a very complicated process, but it is very time consuming. While doing it, I needed to adjust the collisions as well, to make sure that the player isn't blocked by any invisible obstacle. I only modeled the static doors and imported them as parts of the houses. I still haven't added the dynamic doors that you can enter because that would need some programming. I will focus on that later. When I finished that, I went ahead and placed the houses in their rightful place. You can see that I'm starting to make some progress. And with that, I completed the first section of the village. However, looking at the landscape, it still doesn't look realistic. The problem that's causing this is the texture itself. What I need to do is to change it with another one. We can see the difference between the first one and the one I replaced it with. You can see that the tiling is gone, which means that it's the right texture. Now I need to populate the area with some trees. I found these models in CG Trader, and I knew that they were perfect for the landscape. I wanted to place these trees in a way that it makes it look like it's a dense forest. However, by placing them it greatly lowers the performance of the game due to the large size of the models. I felt the need to optimize the models by modifying the LODs, which is a way of reducing the number of triangles of any model when you get away from it. For now I am just experimenting, and I will decide where the trees will be placed after I completely finish designing the village. It's about time I start working on the character of the game. I want the character to be a first-person player, which means I'm gonna get rid of the default skin from Unreal Engine. I will also adjust the character size and the speed. It would also be a good idea to add a sprint mechanic to the game. I will also adjust the environment as well. It wouldn't be called a horror game if it didn't take place in the dark. This is what the game looks like after many modifications. One last thing to do is to give the player a flashlight. Now the game is starting to take shape. It looks scarier this way. This is how it looks now. I know this doesn't look like much, but keep in mind that this is the work of a month. Of course I did have some other occupations, but to show how serious I am, I made a page about it on Steam. I will keep working on this project for the upcoming months. I added these screenshots for now. You can consider them just as placeholders. I will add the real ones after I get further ahead in the development of the game. If you like the idea, please consider wishlisting the game. Also, while we are at it, I encourage you to take a look at my other game. The game is called Above the Hill, which is also a horror game about a hiker who found himself in an unknown area that doesn't exist on the map after falling down the mountain. It is a first-person horror game where you search for a shelter that is supposed to protect you from dangerous animals. And as you keep walking in the forest, you find an old mansion above the hill. The game looks bright and optimistic in the beginning, but as soon as it takes a dark turn, when you find that you have been followed to the house by an unknown creature that is trying to kill you. You are also trying to discover the story of the family who used to live in that house and what happened to them. I am planning on releasing the game very soon. So if you liked it, please consider wishlisting both of my games. This will help me a lot since it will show me how many people are interested in playing my game. Thank you everybody for watching my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.